Okay, we're live. Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm just gonna hang out for a minute until people verify that the audio is working, and I will move along. Um, Tyler, if you can hear this, just send me a message that the audio is working. Oh, someone needs a link to the meeting as well, so I think I'm gonna do that real quick. Let's see. Let's share this. Okay, cool. Okay, you can hear us? Okay, great. We'll start. Cool, guys. Hey, how's it going? Super excited. This is probably going to be one of our more exciting meetups. We're finally releasing our no-code agents management platform, and it's been blowing my mind for the last week, so I'm excited to share it with you guys. Let me just bring up my notes real quick. I'm going to start off with just quick updates on CheatLayer, just as a regular pattern and cadence that we can do every week to make sure we update everyone. Things are moving very quickly, and we have a lot of users who are just now coming back to the product or just learning the product for the first time. So I want to sync everyone together in these meetings, basically. So we just broke 10,000 global monthly active users. We're growing 50% month over month another month. So since we launched on Product Hunt, our growth rate has basically exploded since launching Project Atlas, and that's been working out pretty well. So excited to reveal that. We're releasing the No Codes agents management platform, which is basically like a project management platform to manage no code autonomous agents, and I'll be explaining what that means a little bit later. And it's the first basically no code way to get agents to do what you want, because you can actually edit the context and give them different tasks and things like that. We have a rate limit with OpenAI for 3,500 requests per minute, and that's quickly getting eaten up even with our own tests. So we have a wait list of the first 500 users who will be able to access it. And if that goes up well, we'll actually be giving access to the wait list immediately after this meeting. And so I didn't want to do it before this meeting in case it blew everything up, because there's a chance it will blow everything up. And so we're going to see how it goes. Maybe the peak usage won't be that bad, and we'll be able to allow more users over time as well. And then we're also investigating other solutions, like there's a cool research paper actually that I want to talk about that has a possible solution to the rate limit. And we can do things like bring your own API key. So we might have to even go in that direction, because OpenAI just has this rate limit of 3,500 requests per minute. And agents, you'll see later, quickly pull up 10 workers in a minute to solve things as fast as possible. And we want them to solve it as fast as possible. So that's exciting. And so we're going to try and maintain the quality of the product, but it's going to be limited in the number of users. But we have some solutions to mitigate that. And then there's a few updates to the no-code interface. So when you open the extension icon in Chrome, the old interface would allow you to immediately start building using the no-code editor. So that might be confusing a lot of early users. Now this is much easier, I guess. It's different. So click Add Automation, and since we're basically changing the design to highlight the more options we have now to build automations, and we expect typically all of these solutions that you can build in the no-code editor can also be built in Project Atlas, because Project Atlas has access to all those internal functions. So we're working towards a future where users will be basically using Project Atlas entirely, but we understand there will be a transition period where it just gets better over time, so it doesn't solve everything immediately. And we just basically teach it kind of like a new hire. You would teach a new hire how to solve roadblocks and things like that. And then eventually, even office hours, everything else on this list, the code editor, office hours, the no-code editor, none of this should be necessary if we solve the root problem Project Atlas set out to solve. And I think we're very close to doing that. So to get access to the no-code editor, again, you just have to click the no-code editor, and that allows you to build and run automations unlimited times without consuming any tasks. But I highly recommend using Project Atlas because it builds it for you. And Project Atlas doesn't solve everything out of the box because we haven't solved general AI yet. And we've been trying to be clear about that from the beginning just to manage expectations. But you can see in our Discord now, if you join our Discord or haven't joined it yet, I highly recommend it. Users are discovering these things in simple language. And you can see the process of discovery while we're doing it live in public. It's basically just adding sentences in simple language to get what we want. And you can kind of see basically like talking to an engineer, someone who's building it for you. You can see how you can build it like an iterative process and add features and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. I have a few examples of that I want to show you before we get into much of the other stuff. And then lastly, we're thinking of a way to pay creators who are discovering these cheat codes. So if you check the cheat codes page, users are discovering wild new automations that we never thought were possible. I'm sure you guys have tried some of these. And we believe that that's going to be the long-term path, most valuable path for us is to lean into the community, enable them to distill their deep industry insight in parallel into agents that they can share for others to use and things. But in order to reward them for sharing that deep insight, we want to incentivize sharing it. So right now, we have simple incentives like you can get 1,000 cheat cloud tasks, access to a private Discord, stuff like that for life. But we also want to pay these creators directly for the most run automations per run, even actually based on usage. And that way, if you discover like one of these super popular automations, you could earn significant recurring revenue just by being the first to discover something cool. And if you look at the examples of these, they're very simple phrases and stuff like that. So it's not that hard to discover them. But we're looking for people to help us discover the most valuable ones as fast as possible. So that'll be kind of exciting. We have a few options to do the actual incentive structure. So we've been considering things like a submerchant gateway, like a traditional submerchant gateway. But another idea is to set up a cryptocurrency that initially has completely zero value. So it's not like we're selling anything, but as we grow, we can set up a liquidity pool with like a predefined vesting structure based on our actual growth, sustainable growth of getting actual subscribers. And then so that way, as we grow as a company, we can put money towards this liquidity pool that eventually grows the value of the coin, and creators or whatever, then the creators earn that coin automatically every time something is run. So that's an easy, fast way for us to set up basically the reward framework without actually having the funds to pay everyone right out the bat. So eventually, as we grow, I thought that was an interesting idea. Let me know what you think, and then so let's go on to before. I'll be doing the agents. I'll be showing you guys the agent stuff towards the end of the meetup. But what I want to do first is show you guys something that everyone can do now at home. So not everyone will get access to agents because it's limited to 500 users, but you'll get the email. I'll start sending out the email right after this meetup. And so I'm excited to see what happens then. But I'm going to first go over some automations, some cheat codes that haven't been revealed yet that you can try at home that are I thought that was kind of interesting and stuff. So this is something everyone can try, even if you don't have access to agents in the whitelist or if you're free account and things like that. So this was interesting. So you can go to any website to try this out. Go to cheatlayer.com maybe. And I'll post all these prompts in the Discord right after the meetup. So just go to the Discord. There's a channel for these meetups, and you'll see all the prompts. You can try these all yourself. So hold Alt-S, and I'm just going to paste it in here. This is an interesting thing. So I was helping one of the users in the Discord do generate product descriptions, basically, right? And he needed to generate 10,000 product descriptions. And in order we tried to use the Chat GPT Playground to set it up and do it, but it hit a limit of 190,000 tokens. And so some of you may know that the GPT-4 has a limit of 8K tokens. So it would have been a tedious process. So what we did instead was we actually just asked Project Atlas, and you can see the phrase, I did it here, and you can try it later, to generate an app that would take a CSV as input and then loop through each row and then actually process each row independently using the GPT-4 API. And it actually worked. And then on the first try, literally it worked. And I've set it up here. Yeah, let me just run it again. And I think that's very cool because it's finally realizing that original vision where you have like a personal software engineer. And rather than seeking out apps or waiting for the services you pay for to build features just for you, they might not want to do that because they have to cater to the aggregate, the largest customer base. You can actually have apps built for you on the fly, custom to your needs. And those apps would be built using the same underlying technology, so it would be cheaper for you, basically free for you to own the app and things like that. So that's kind of exciting. We're working towards that future, and agents is a big step towards that future, I think, because maybe even if we don't build this solution, I'm very excited about just having it. In 6 months to a year, everyone will have this kind of personal software engineer that won't be just doing simple widgets and websites, but actually entire apps, entire services, and things like that. And that's what agents is basically allowing. So that's kind of exciting. So yeah, you can try this at home. This one was cool. Another cool one, cool automation that I found this week. This is another one from the Discord. So this is I think this is Discord as like a useful way to find these. So these are really just things users asked us to do. So you can go to any search on Twitter. And the user was looking for a way to rank all the tweets from all the top tweets from a search. And the initial phrase didn't work. And that's going to be generally true. The first phrase usually doesn't work. It requires some trial and error now, just like all other chat GPT tools. And you kind of understand that they're kind of similar intuitively because the underlying model hasn't solved the alignment problem, basically. So it's always going to take trial and error until we add more fine tuning or build that trial and error into the knowledge and stuff like that. So that's we have a few exciting solutions for that I want to talk about. So this process of discovering completely new automations is actually just trying something simple on any random website and it'll work or it won't work. And if it won't work, tell Project Atlas why it didn't work. And it'll try again, or just try it again, and it'll try a different solution, and it seems to work. And so that's kind of exciting. So let me just go over this. Hold Alt-S on any search on Twitter, and paste this second phrase in that I'll put in the Discord. You can try later. Basically, it allows you to. So first, you can see the first version we tried in the Discord was it only got like a few results. It only got 3 results. And so we figured out that, well, yeah, you need to scroll to the bottom of the page to get more. And that got a few more results, but we wanted 50 results. So then we said, okay, scrape 50 results, scroll to the bottom of the page 5 times, and then rank all those and sort them. And so you can see like the iterative process where I just added sentences in simple language. And none of this is like jargon. It's something that you would say if you hired someone to build this for you, basically. And so that's kind of exciting. And then it actually works. It's going to build this and just scrape it and like start scrolling and collecting and stuff like that, and I can watch it. You can find more examples like this where users are trying things now, and more often than not, there's just 1 or 2 sentences away from the actual working phrase. So you can understand that the reason this works is because Project Atlas has the ability now to execute any CDN from the internet, hosted on the internet, any API, bring in any API that it knows up until 2021, and maybe even things that we teach it. So things like Salesforce, it knows how to integrate with. It knows how to execute arbitrary JavaScript. So people are building wild tools, games, things like that, actual functional tools and stuff like that. And it knows how to execute our internal library. So for things like, what is it? Like sending data, opening tabs, scraping things, and all that stuff. So that's kind of exciting, yeah. Let me run this again. And that's the reason why users are even discovering things that we never expected. I ran it on the wrong page, sorry. Okay. So that's kind of cool. So next what I want to do is, after you generate this thing, you can click save code and run it again. And once you run it, once you click save code, you don't have to keep regenerating it. It only consumes tasks when you use Project Atlas to generate the automation, or if you use GPT-3 to generate content like tweets and stuff like that. So one trick is to just click save after you've built this thing and you've discovered it, and then it's part of your library. You can run it unlimited times without consuming tasks, and you can even turn it into a product to sell. So that's pretty cool. All right, so I'm just going to let this finish, and then next I want to just go over the latest research that I thought was kind of cool this week. So yeah, you can see it scrolling and stuff like that. All right, I'll come back to this. So let's start with this paper. So this paper is kind of exciting. It's called Large Language Models as Tool Makers. And I thought this is interesting because they published it. So it's from Google, DeepMind, Princeton, Stanford. But we also, like a few weeks ago in our Discord, we were talking about this same idea, basically. The idea that you can have Project Atlas save code because the eval function, you save working code. And we can use a vector database to save the working code. And since we've taught Project Atlas to generate meaningful function names, like for example, it'll say send Gmail or scrape Twitter or tweet or something like that, embeddings will map to the phrases, will closely relate to the phrases that are used to generate those automations. So basically, we've built a way for Project Atlas and agents, it's live in the next update to you guys, I have access to it now, to save code that it's confirmed working. And this is really cool because agents do something interesting where they actually verify the result. Currently, Project Atlas doesn't verify the output result. You just have to see if it works or not, which is more easy to do if you're building like a product, it's visual and it's like a website and stuff like that. Sorry, this was the tweet ranker that just ran. I ran it on the wrong page. You have to go to like the latest tweets or whatever. But you can try this yourself at home. You can see it goes through and adds them all up. And in order to get all 50, we had to make it scroll like 5 times, basically. And actually even sorts them, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so this latest research paper, back to this paper. This is super interesting because we were kind of talking like exactly the same idea, but in JavaScript and using embeddings instead of in Python. But basically they're building this, but it gave me it's very cool because I kind of got chills down my spine while I was reading this because it's the same ideas we have and the same problems we were trying to solve, except in JavaScript and with real world problems and things like that. But it also gave me an interesting idea, a possible solution to our rate limit problem. So this is kind of cool. So, okay, so let me just explain what's happening here. So these researchers figured out that GPT-4 functions better. Well, first of all, there's this idea called chain of thought. You might have seen that paper before. We talked about it in the last meetup, where if these models give themselves a space, maybe like to think about, a space to reflect on their previous thoughts, kind of like a short-term memory, they tend to do better. So if you say things like, do things in a chain of thought, or do things in order, or think about your steps, do things step by step, or generate an output and then reflect on that output and see how it goes, it actually performs better. So it's kind of like adding short-term memory to these large language models. These guys took it a step further, where instead of just a chain of thought, you can have these models generate tools. Tools are just basically code functions that you verify work, and then you save that function, and they have like some extra technical stuff, wrapping code that you don't really need to understand. But the point of it is that they figured out, well, first of all, just using tools itself brings it to the state of the art on many of their tests. These are just like benchmark tests. They're not maybe mostly real world things. The scheduled meeting is probably the closest example of a real world application. But these benchmark tests are state of the art by building tools rather than solving the problem directly, for one. And the other interesting thing is they also took the tool and gave it to GPT 3.5. And you can see the results are almost identical, very close to basically the same in a lot of these cases. And it's very interesting because based on the use case, it might be that we can solve the rate limit problem by offloading, like using GPT-4 as the manager for agents to design the tasks, and then like design the code, but then using GPT-3 for the agents that actually execute the code. So that would be an interesting way to bypass our rate limit. And that's also the reason they talk about it in the paper. So they talk about this as a way to, because GPT-4 is 30 times more expensive, get basically the same results and lower costs and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. I think generally there's going to be like a lot of researchers working on lowering costs on all these models. So we maybe shouldn't be worried about it ourselves. It's just going to be like riding the wave of Moore's law, where these costs are going to go to zero over time. And we should be thinking about how we can solve the hardest problems if we had infinite resources. And we're kind of at that state where agents, so I'll explain when we test agents, they have the ability now to solve problems that we couldn't solve ourselves. So up until now with Project Atlas, the way we've gotten it to work is by teaching it our tricks for automation, things like opening tabs and bypassing cross-origin iframes and stuff like that. And so far, it's only been able to copy at best what we've been able to do. With what we've figured out recently with agents, it can actually do scientific research on the latest papers, form an independent conclusion, and it's possible for it to use that independent conclusion to generate new code. And so that's exciting for us, because that means that rather than just copying us, I mean, it's already been able to augment us in many ways. It's able to solve problems that we couldn't solve, that we had no idea how to solve before. So that's very interesting. Okay. So that's the first paper that I was excited about. And then the other paper that's really very interesting, this is a little bit older paper, is put out by NVIDIA, the guys who built that Voyager model. Basically, they built a machine learning model to play Minecraft, which is analogous to like a robot in the real world. So it's very interesting how it performed. So they used GPT-4, and they trained GPT-4 to use this library, this JavaScript library that allows you to interact with Minecraft, basically. And it tells you like the state of the world and everything that you need to do. So you can kind of build this yourself actually with any game. If you just get the state of the world, give it back to GPT-4 and ask it to take another step. So that's really cool. If you guys have any like Python's coding skills or anything, you can actually do this with any game. So that's interesting. But we're basically doing this now with agents in the real world. So this was like another spine-tingling paper just to read again, because a lot of the things they're talking about in this paper, like establishing reasoning and regenerating tasks and all that stuff, is now we're actually encountering with real-world problems, and it's actually solving it in the real world rather than in Minecraft. And so it's really, really exciting. That's why I really like this paper. I mean, more than... It wasn't like a I think the groundbreaking thing was that it was actually able to use all the existing papers and apply GPT-4 to Minecraft, actually. And that was kind of exciting. So this is cool. All right, now let's go back to demonstrating agents. So, okay. So we started building Project Atlas around sometime after the first boot camp. So when we first built CheatLayer, we got access to GPT-3 to solve this problem of building automations from end to end. However, we quickly realized that GPT-3 wasn't powerful enough to scale to that problem. And we often got early users who would ask us like, I just asked it to go to eBay and scrape this thing, and why didn't that work? That actually works now, so that's kind of cool. And we had to explain to all users that GPT-3 doesn't solve everything, and at that early stage, you needed to be a software engineer to tell it how to solve problems. And so we had this whole boot camp where the whole point was to teach users how to use GPT-3 rather than how to teach GPT-3 to meet users at their level of understanding. And we thought that was the future, actually. We thought that was the future direction, that you had to like teach people to use, understand how to code in language and stuff like that. No, that wasn't true. So what happened was when we looked at our like metrics and Mixpanel and stuff like that, we saw that immediately after the first bootcamp ended, GPT-3 usage dropped off the cliff. No one was using it at all. So even though we taught people how to solve some of these problems with GPT-3 by teaching them jargon and coding, it wasn't really something that they would have sought out and done. It was hard to do. It wasn't a good experience, and it didn't solve the root problem, which was to make it easy for non-technical people. So that's when we really set out to build Project Atlas. When we understood that the original solution we built with just generating automations and code didn't solve the root problem. And so we've been talking about this for a year and months. Like, I've been talking about this for months. But we only finally realized a framework where you can actually go to eBay and like you can go to random search on eBay and scrape it. That's actually one of the cheat codes someone submitted. You can go to random search on eBay and scrape it and it'll actually just work. So that's cool. That's very exciting. But we've also been talking about, since we took the step to get there, we've also realized that in order to solve everything, all the roadblocks, we need to do something more. So a few months ago, we brought up the idea that if Twitter, for example, changed the design of their tweet button, it would still be a tweet button, might be different blue or something like that. So how do you solve that? You can't do it with the current way we've designed Project Atlas, but we've been working on a desktop version to solve this problem, which is basically to use images and computer vision to train a history of the understanding of the problem at the visual level and all of those signals that are available. And so that allows agents to be robust to even design changes in the future so that they understand that if Twitter changes their tweet button, it'll still look like a tweet button and they won't fail and things like that. So the root idea we had was to add dynamism and robustness to these generated automations from Project Atlas using agents. And then like a year ago, no one else, I think we were the only startup on the planet using GPT-3 to generate automations, but now suddenly everyone is doing this. So it's very cool, very exciting, but also we have to I think, establish that we're not copying anyone. We've been working on this for a while, so we had some users tell us wait, are you guys just copying ChatGPT and plugins and stuff? No, we released before ChatGPT plugins. We were the only automation startup that was using GPT-3 for automations a year ago, basically. So we've designed things in a unique way. So our agents platform, my point is, it's not a copy or like a wrapper of what you can find. We've designed it in a way based on our experience trying to solve these problems with our customers and ourselves. And if you wanted to make this like a meaningful tool to actually solve problems, we realized we needed to make it look like a project management interface. If you had like an actual team of AI agents working for you in parallel, you would need some way, I would want some way to see what they're doing, see the results, especially if they're operating on behalf of my company in parallel with maybe hundreds of agents. There needs to be some way to manage them. And so we've set up a project management interface. I'm going to show it to you guys now, where it allows you to build these autonomous agents by distilling your deep industry insight into custom agents to solve your problem. So agents, let me just explain what they are. They add the ability to solve problems of unlimited complexity because they verify the output. So if something hasn't been generated or it's not expected output, it'll regenerate the task and try again. So it understands the idea of failure. Normally with Project Atlas so far, if it fails, it kind of does nothing. You don't know what's going on. With agents, if it doesn't generate anything at all, it'll regenerate the task and try again. So that's very powerful, especially since GPT-4 understands now. It's much better at the alignment problem. So it understands now if you say something is broken and why it's broken, it actually tries relevant solutions to fix it. It's much better at that now. You might have noticed this while building websites and tools, but this applies to agents as well. And so we did something exciting the other day. We added the ability for agents to regenerate their tasks. And I was launching an agent that did scientific research. And it was getting stuck on a task because it was something that we hadn't, these are like employees we're training, right? So we hadn't trained the employee how to solve that thing yet. And it was getting stuck at the PDF, how to return the result from a PDF. And it did something mind-blowing to me. Okay, so it regenerated the task, and it kept failing, a few times it kept failing. But eventually, it generated a solution and just phrased it enough, verbose way for it to generate code that actually worked and solved the problem. Because it's randomly generating this stuff every time. So there's kind of like the idea behind evolution. Just by randomly generating perturbations or over enough time and random numbers, you can evolve and form life, right? So that's kind of that was so exciting. That blew my mind. I didn't expect it to solve the problem, but when I went back, it had actually completed all the tasks and solved the entire scientific research problem itself. So that means it actually has the ability to be self-learning now. So that's really exciting too. So I'm going to show that to you, a few demos now. And then, so they have that ability. They also have this ability where you can run these agents on recurrent tasks that continue to run forever. So for example, the most relevant one about this is the sales team agent. And what it does is basically it moves and navigates through websites like LinkedIn, GitHub, Indie Hackers, whatever, YouTube, and it seeks out contacts. It seeks out ways to message them, DM them, or email them. It uses their social media or the context of the situation to generate personalized messages, personalized outbound messages. And then it also maintains the conversation with potentially hundreds of people in parallel using a vector database as a CRM. And I think that's the necessary solution to get this to work, because it can actually maintain the history of all those conversations. And it's actually working. It's exciting. I'm testing. We haven't tested with hundreds of people in parallel, but we're seeing it send messages. And so we're testing it robustly. And so that's one of the exciting things. So the idea of recurrent tasks is that once it completes tasks or completes the goal, it'll keep running it. So you can keep going. It doesn't stop. So that's another exciting feature of for agents. I mentioned that they're self-learning, where they can, well, not self-learning, but self-improving. They are self-learning, but I first mentioned that they're self-improving because they can fix their tasks and retry again. And now we've also added the ability for it to be self-improving. So you can see when we run agents that it has the ability, if a task fails, it knows when it fails, and it knows how to regenerate tasks. So we can test that. You can see that. And then it also knows when a task has succeeded, because it can check the output and see that it's an expected result. So what we can do now is, in our version, every time it's generated a task and succeeded in generating code that worked, we can store that code in embeddings, using embeddings in a vector database. And that's really exciting, because that means that rather than the first time it failing, if any other user has tried this before, the first time it'll just use the working code that the other user has tried, which allows Project Atlas and agents to learn and improve in parallel as users just test things. Because even the failures help us, because we don't keep the failures, we keep the success. So as users help us iterate, try things, go through this trial and error process, it'll actually get better every day over time with the next update, and that's really exciting. It's also potentially dangerous. So we're going to have a lot of warnings with agents. So the sales team agent is probably the only one that's actually going to be live acting on your behalf without a human in the loop on the internet. So we're testing that extensively to make sure it doesn't do anything crazy and stuff like that. And we're putting in safeguards, like reasonable safeguards. But the other two agents that we're building generally have like a human in the loop or some way that you can verify the result. So we're very excited to see what happens, but also scared because these agents can basically do anything. They can send emails, interact with any API, pull in any API, pull in any CDN library, run our arbitrary code. So there's going to be a lot of warnings. We're going to try and safeguard it as much as possible. And we're going to, one of the ways we're safeguarding is just the waitlist allows us to limit release so things don't go crazy overnight, at least. So that's cool. Okay. And yeah, I already went over the fact that we've been discussing agents for a while. I don't think we were the first to build agents. There's another startup called Adept.ai that probably started around the same time we did, so they might have been first. We don't know who's first. It doesn't really matter. I think the reason that, the benefit that we really have, the advantage we really have, is we have users testing this and helping us iterate and grow both the library of automations of what's possible, because they're discovering it in simple language, but also helping us improve the agents over time by just testing it and storing the data. The cool thing about this is that as these agents go, they can even learn what's high converting copy, because we can record like the prompts that we use to generate the good copy and in the same vector database. It's wild. And the reason it works is because we taught Project Atlas and ChatGPT and agents to, when it generates code, to use relevant function names and stuff like that. And so the function name is going to be closely related to whatever things people ask for. And so that also means, there's another cool consequence of that. That also means that over time, because if we grow this library of embeddings, the function names will also be closely related to the simplest versions of those phrases. So over time, as people use and test things and verify it works and automatically verify it works, the phrases you need to generate those complex solutions will get simpler and simpler. I think that was a really cool consequence as well. So, all right. So let me just go over and quickly demo the agents management platform. We'll be giving access, if you're on the first 500, the top of the 500 of the list, you'll be getting an email later today. And you'll get access to the link to the new dashboard for agents, and hopefully nothing blows up. But send us an email, send a live chat support if you see anything breaking, because it's still in beta. I appreciate you guys giving us feedback and understanding we're still building this. But what it's doing is very exciting. So let me just show you for a second. All right. So here's the new dashboard. We actually have a version of this. We're working with a designer. Let me see. Do I have the screenshot? Somewhere. No, it's maybe in Figma. Let's see. Yeah, we're working with a designer to build, to polish the design for this. Yeah, this one. Just like how we built the current Project Atlas interface, we use Project Atlas itself to generate the design, and then generate all the functionality basically, and then we sent it to a professional designer to polish and build the final version. So this is what the final version is looking like. We're waiting on that. That update will also be live, but you guys can actually still use the uglier version. But this was actually the functionality of all of this, just like the functionality of this chat. I didn't write the code for this real-time search. This was all generated by Project Atlas. And I mean, I could have written the code for this and all this. It would take me probably, honestly, 3 more weeks. So the reason we're moving so fast, one of the reasons is also that we're leaning on this ourselves. So that's kind of useful and exciting, and validates it. And that's why one of the reasons we also focused on building the software developer agent, which is I'm about to show you, because it helps us accelerate our development, especially if we're a small team. This builds the code we would have wanted to build much faster, almost instantly. And we can talk to it like an assistant. So it's really, really very exciting. Okay, so this is a no-code management interface that allows you to manage your agents in parallel, just like if they were a team that you were managing, a remote team, for example. And it's like a Monday.com interface where you can even change the task. So you can actually edit the task if it gets it wrong. You can add additional context. You can tell it to start on different websites. It even takes screenshots and returns all the results while it's going along. So you can see like a real-time, it actually updates in real time. So you can see a real-time update of how it's going, even if you're on your phone and off somewhere and it's running on your computer or something. So that's kind of interesting. So you can build agents that do literally anything. We've just been testing these 3 agents that are exciting for us. So let me just run a few agents to show you why they're exciting for us. Okay, so there's a scientific research agent. And just like when we released the ability to talk to PDFs, so you can go to any PDF. I think I talked about this in the last meetup. You can go to any PDF, open CheatLayer with the extension icon, and ask it a question. And it'll answer questions against the PDF, even explain it to you like your 5 and stuff like that. This is a step further from that, where you can ask the agent to perform arbitrary scientific research on any topic, anything you want, even combining multiple topics for an idea that you had and stuff like that. A new novel idea that you had, or even asking it to come up with novel ideas. And what it does is it actually goes to the top research paper. So that's what it just did right now. It went to the top research papers. And let's go back to the dashboard and see. I just added this agent. It's here at the bottom. Okay, so I completed the first task already. And it sent me a screenshot of completing the first task and all the PDF links that it found in all those research papers. Okay, so next, what it's going to do is it's going to open each one of those research papers in independent tabs and ask workers to summarize each one of those papers in parallel. Now these are complete. You can do this at home when you get access to agents with any random like scientific research you want to do. So one of my hobbies is cosmology, right? And I was pitching it random ideas on what I think dark matter is. And so I have this interesting idea that I think it's a consequence of gravity leaking from maybe another universe. And there's things like the bullet cluster experience and that galaxy at the edge of the universe that's very old that kind of explain this phenomena. And I asked it to research this idea, and it actually went across all the papers and formed a meaningful independent conclusion and suggested that it was possible. So that was kind of crazy and mind-blowing. I mean, I don't think that idea is actually possible. We probably need to like do a lot more research, but it's provided paths to do that research, basically. So that was interesting. And this can be applied to not just like cosmology. You guys, we have some doctors, like people who are like experts in the health field that can now do independent scientific research on anything they want to consider. And it'll actually go open the papers, it'll go compile the results, and it'll go summarize the results, and then come back and perform just finished. Perform an independent conclusion. Okay, so this is cool, right? You can see improvements in okay, I did this before, and it got different papers. Let me see. Based on the summaries provided, it appears that the latest research on GPT-4 focused on improving the model's performance, scalability, and efficiency. Researchers are also exploring ways to address potential biases and ethical concerns associated with different large-scale models. And if you look at the papers that it opened, those were the topics in the papers that it opened. This is kind of a simple one, but you can actually do complex. I tried to keep it simple so you guys can try it at home, but you can do complex scientific research on cosmology, health, literally anything. It'll go open the papers. And you can ask it more meaningful questions and just like analyze. You can say, is this possible? Or do you think this possible? Or give it context and say, based on that, is this possible? And it'll actually go do the research. So that's kind of exciting. Scientific research. So this is one of the reasons. So we built 3 agents that we were immediately needing ourselves. And so that's why we focused on the software developer agent. It already helps us accelerate our development. The sales agent, we've already been using the sales team automation for automating our own sales team for growing, like getting demos constantly on autopilot. We grow with product-led growth now, so we don't use the sales team, but that's actually something that we want to do for getting larger enterprise customers and things like that. So this is something that we need to build for ourselves. So that's why we're building it. And then this scientific research agent is basically a problem that I've had for like my entire career. So when people like when software engineers are building something, right, and they hit a roadblock, typically what they do is they go to Stack Overflow and then Google, and then they bang their head on the keyboard, and then eventually they go to the latest research papers, basically like this, to find some kind of solution to the problem that might be possible, and then they build code based on that bleeding edge research. And this is how this is how GPT-4, this is how Stable Diffusion, that all these technologies are built, basically. So the cool thing is that these conclusions were not in those papers. The conclusions that it's forming, or it's able to form, you can actually ask it to do wild questions about nothing related to the current papers. And it'll actually give you a conclusion on that question. So the cool thing is so I asked it to also analyze the latest research on Alzheimer's, right? And these conclusions are actually independent conclusions that it's getting. Novel therapeutic approaches targeting these factors are being explored with a focus on early detection and prevention strategies. That's actually true. That's actually from those papers. Additionally, I don't know what that means. Okay, yeah. Metal ions have been... Okay, yeah, I've heard of this too before. Okay, so now you could have asked the question, instead of just saying analyze, you can actually just say, well, is this a possible cure for Alzheimer's? Actually, there was a recent news about like a synthetic particle that was probably used. So that would be really a cool test to see if it could independently even verify that that's possible. So it did do... I've tested this myself with cosmology, but you guys have deep industry insights and things I have no idea about. So I'm excited to see what you guys actually verify or discover. And the cool thing about this is if we can take the independent conclusion and link it back to the ability for it to generate code and access to all those libraries and JavaScript and everything, then it will actually be able to solve problems beyond what we can just solve. It'll be able to solve problems we couldn't solve ourselves, which is super exciting for me. Because then we can, I mean, there's like a list of research projects that we have constantly that we just don't work on because we have to triage as a startup what's most important to our customers, what brings most value to our customers. But there's also like long-term bets, and the idea of research is basically you're kind of just taking bets on ideas. And when you do research, it's not always going to pan out, right? And so if all startups could suddenly just in parallel do all of their research at once, imagine how powerful that would be, right? That we're close to doing that. I mean, I want to do that now. And so it's really exciting. And so that's why we built this research agent. The other agent that's really cool is it's a software developer agent. So, like as a consequence of us solving this niche problem for automation, we've known also that we've been building basically a personalized software engineer. That was in our copy since we launched, basically. We were trying to build a personalized software engineer to replace me, who was when I was trying to help all those people during the pandemic build their businesses online, basically. We're finally actually at that point that completely non-technical people can build these products entirely in simple language. They can automate their social media, they can build these products, they can do everything that I was helping them with before, automate their sales in entirely simple language. So that's really exciting, and this is an important part of that. So the software developer agent can build any product, not just front ends or websites like you guys all have access to now in Project Atlas. You can tell it to build like a website and it'll build a website, or you can tell it to build a tool and it'll build a tool. But those are all front end websites. They don't have a back end. They're not more complex than that because it's still limited to the 8K context window in that Project Atlas modality. And you might notice there are other tools that allow you to build websites with ChatGPT now, and they're all also building front ends and websites and widgets and things like that. And there's a reason for that. It's because we all have the same limit. Well, there's a few tools, not all of them, sorry. There's a few tools now that are also understanding how to bypass this limit and build also the back end. There's like small developer. There's a few other tools that also like services that also build the back end and stuff like that for you. So the idea is you can do it, but you just need to break it up into manageable parts. And those parts, I think those other solutions are kind of like hard-coded for websites and stuff like that. But this is a generalized software engineer. It'll build whatever you want. Front ends, back ends. I was just testing a Chrome extension builder, and it actually does it. Front ends, back ends, Chrome extensions, apps, cryptocurrencies, marketplaces, literally anything. And it's trying to realize that original, like that idea we had where everyone will have like a software engineer in their pocket or our team in their pocket, basically, to build these things live. And so you can tell it to build random Chrome extensions that do any task. It's even better than our Chrome extension generator because it can do the same things our Chrome extension generator can do, except rather than you building the automation, it will build the automation and then turn it into a Chrome extension for you. Literally. Like I turned this for this example, you can generate this too when you get access. You can tell it to build a Chrome extension summarizer that uses the OpenAI API to summarize any website for you. And it'll actually set up the API for you, and you can put your OpenAI key, and it works. You click the button, it summarizes websites. And all I had to do was type this in and tell it to build it for me. Just like if I hired like someone on Fiverr or Upwork to build this for me, like a freelancer. And it does it. And so that's the amazing thing. And let me just run it. Let's just show you how it goes. I also tested this with like a back-end, front-end website that I tried to replicate our cheat layer website, and I built it. It's really cool. I mean, I keep saying that. I keep like blowing my own mind, like surprising myself now, because more often than not, it's blowing my mind. It's kind of funny. Like that thing where the tasks regenerated themselves and actually worked. Like the first time I had that kind of feeling where it was doing things that I didn't expect was when Project Atlas started opening up random websites to answer questions like population and stuff like that. So when that first happened, I was like, oh, this is something new. But when it figured out a way to solve a problem I was trying to solve before me, that gave me like chills down my spine. Because I was literally trying to solve that problem, that roadblock it had using code, but I don't have to do it. It figured out a way to do it itself. That's so exciting. I don't know how to say that more. It's really, even as a developer, for me, it's exciting because It helps me accelerate development. I mean, we're using it to build this dashboard and stuff like that. But I just like, there's so many cool ideas and projects and things that I've had no time for that I just had to abandon because I didn't have like time to think about it or a team to build it. But now we all have this like team of engineers building things or that can build whatever we want. It's really exciting. So this is just a start. I think that like these 3 agents are supremely valuable to us and other startups, so that's why we're focusing on it first. But I suspect, and that's the reason we designed everything this way, that like out of our thousands of users, they have far more deep industry insight and value to build actually functional agents across every industry. And I think we have an opportunity now. I've been talking about this for like months. And I honestly think people didn't believe me when I was first talking, but now everyone is kind of doing this thing. So it's kind of exciting. This problem we're solving is worth literally billions, even if we're not first, even if we're like third or fourth, it doesn't matter. Because the root problem we're solving at is actually valuable. Like building these products, doing independent scientific research solves actually valuable problems better than anything else. So just by solving it, it doesn't matter who's first, who came up with the idea first. What we're focusing on is building valuable agents for completely non-technical people, because that was the mission. That was the problem I set out to solve. And I think we'll be the first to do it, hopefully. But we're launching in the next week or so. So, I mean, to the public, not just to our own users. So right after this meetup, check your email if you were on the wait list, or you might get an email later today, and you'll get access to agents. Please try it out. Let me know what you discover. I'm anticipating and also fearful because some crazy thing could happen. It's already doing things that I didn't expect, and it can generate anything. So we'll have a lot of warnings. But yeah, this is an exciting time for me and exciting time for us as Cheat Layer. All right, guys. I'm just gonna let this finish. I went a little bit faster than expected, but yeah, this was a fun meetup, and I'm gonna get back to working on this and giving everyone access through the waitlist next. Let's see. So let me go back to the dashboard and show you the progress. So it's building each page of the Chrome extension one by one. So you can see Chrome extensions, well, you might not know, they need like a manifest file, and then they need a background.js file, and then like a content.js file. And it's actually building it, split it up into parts. And it's building like a summarizer that you can build using the OpenAI API. And the output that it generates actually works, which is mind-blowing to me, because you can build this using our no-code tools. It just takes 20 minutes longer. So it's better than what we spent so much time building. I mean, it's okay. That's the problem that we set out to solve. So I shouldn't be surprised it solved this problem. I should be happy. And yeah, it's really exciting. Okay, so it just generated another page, another HTML page. So you can see like the summary and stuff like that. And sometimes when it generates outputs, it also, I think, let me see. Here, yeah, it also generates a preview. So I think I want to also make these outputs look more than just the design improvement, but also make these outputs more robust, because it has the ability, after it finishes, it completes all these tasks, even like the sales agent, to generate custom graphs, custom reports based on the actual context, not like predefined reports and graphs, but actually meaningful, relevant reports and graphs after it finishes, and then emailing that report to you. So that's kind of cool. So I'm definitely going to do that, because literally getting that to work now is just telling it to do it. that's a cool, exciting thing, is a lot of these features, like this whole dashboard, I didn't write the code for this dashboard. A lot of these features now, I'm just telling it to write it. Like this real-time search, we didn't write the code for this, and it's writing it for us. We just have the ideas that we want to try, and it's writing it for us as fast as possible. So that also, I mean, extends to our users. If as you give us feedback in this feedback and in this beta, we'll be able to iterate much faster based on your feedback, especially like the design and UI. And so feel free to send the live chat or me personally at rohan@cheatlayer.com ideas on how you think we can improve this and push this faster. Go deep, basically. Solve all the problems, I think. I think we're actually at that point that Nothing limits this. It's really that crazy. And there's so many problems we can solve that, well, not just me, like the community together can probably solve if we give them access to this. Like immediately, I feel like we're going to have like groundbreaking scientific breakthroughs, like people building entire products and stuff like that. It's going to be crazy. And even if we do it, I've been saying this repeatedly, even if we don't solve this problem, it's like now an obvious problem to solve. So other startups are kind of working on this. Everyone like and their dogs are not working on this. And so, I mean, it's good because it also forced us to publish faster. I think if we didn't have competition like this, we would have probably spent a lot more time trying to build our agent's dashboard and releasing it much more comfortably. So that's kind of cool that we had people forced us to release it faster, and because it's magical. I wouldn't have had that spine-tingling moment if we weren't forced to do this. And I guess that's just startups. So it's part of the game, but this is fun. And I appreciate you guys joining us on the ride. So thank you guys. And that's all I have for the meetup today. So stay tuned if you're one of the lucky 500. All users, lifetime free subscription users got the same access to the wait list. So we'll just go down and, well, some people, if you shared your link to the referral list, you get pushed up the top. So some people got pushed up the top for sharing and stuff, but not many. Most people didn't share. So even if you don't get access, we hope to give everyone access eventually, possibly even through a bring your own API key thing if we have to. And if that happens, you will need GPT-4 access. So I would just apply for GPT-4 API access if you don't have it already. We can use, I think, the API for the chat side of things, but that's like a little fishy, and I don't want to go that route. And so, I mean, we might have to, but it's okay. All right, cool. This was very good timing. I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you, guys.